Good morning. Welcome to our candidate briefing with Dr. Barbara Bollier, the Democratic candidate running for the United States Senate. This special event is hosted by the Johnson County Public Policy Council, comprised of the 10 chambers of commerce serving Johnson County. My name is Tony Rupp. I am the partner in charge of the Folston-Siefken office in Overland Park. I am here in my role as chair of the Overland Park Chamber's Public Policy and Advocacy Committee. Before today's event, the Johnson County Public Policy Council solicited your questions. Based on your input, the council met yesterday afternoon and chose the order of the questions that will be asked today. The format will begin with Dr. Bollier's opening statement, and we will permit her to give a closing statement as well. In between, we'll ask your questions in an open-ended style. The topics address the business issues raised by members of our audience today and include things like tax policy, deficit spending, stimulus, business liability under COVID-19, healthcare, trade, and other questions. Let me now introduce you to Dr. Bollier. Dr. Bollier grew up in Fairway and Mission Hills, where she attended public schools. She graduated from KU and went on to earn her medical degree from the KU School of Medicine. After a career as a doctor, Senator Bollier successfully ran for the Kansas House of Representatives and now serves in the Kansas Senate, representing a district that includes much of Northeast Johnson County. Most recently, Senator Bollier has served as ranking minority member of the Senate's Public Health and Welfare Committee, ranking minority member of the Select Committee on Healthcare Access, and as a member of the Senate Education Committee, the 2019 Committee on Medicaid Expansion, and the 2019 Special Committee on Health. Dr. Bollier, you now have up to 10 minutes to provide an opening statement.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Overland Park Chamber. It's good to be with you again. I, as you well know, represent part of Overland Park as a current state senator. So as I tell everyone, welcome to my home or in my study, and welcome to this very exciting time for Kansas. I am Barbara Bollier. You say my name, I think bowl of cherries and say yay, Bollier. I am currently a state senator, and I'm a physician. And you can imagine that as a physician, I've never been about partisan politics. And when I joined the state legislature 11 years ago, that's the very same set of principles that I took to the state legislature to work on bipartisanship and getting the voice of the people to the table. Yes, I was elected originally as a moderate Republican. Many of you are aware of that. And that's how I grew up, with the likes of Senator Nancy Landon Casaubon as my role model, a woman who really emphasized working across the aisle, and it's a great example of putting party behind the people, people first. And I'm so proud to have her endorsement, by the way. So over time, I kept finding myself at odds with things that you, even as an Overland Park Chamber, very much wanted to have done in our state, such as funding public education, the very backbone of who we are as Kansans, and the path forward to having the workers that we need and very strong communities. They were against that funding. We've had lawsuits about that. Another huge issue was the very failed Brownback tax experiment. I voted no against party leadership. I didn't think it would be something that would work. And I said at the time, I hope I'm wrong. It wasn't. And then it took a group of Republicans and Democrats coming together to end that terrible, terrible challenge that we're still suffering under the repercussions of not appropriately bringing revenue into our state. And finally, Medicaid expansion. You've heard on the committees I've been on. The number one issue for Kansans is affordable health care, and 80% of people asked us to expand Medicaid in the state. Instead, the Republican leadership continues to stand in the way. So over time, it just became clear that my values, the values of my constituents, weren't being represented. And I ultimately endorsed Laura Kelly, our current governor, across party lines. Because again, it's about the person, not the party. Kansans agreed, and I realized it was time to change. So I'm a very proud, pragmatic Democrat now. Same value system, same votes. The party, the leadership of the party just left where I was. And I am so honored to have the nomination for United States Senate from the Democratic side in the state, and look so forward to serving the people in a bipartisan manner. So we're excited about where this race is going right now. I will bring to the table that very important issue that I hear from as really one of the top 3 things I hear from Kansas right now is finding that the U.S. Senate will actually work together, that they'll drop this horrible partisanship that is getting in the way of the good of the people, and that we can move forward doing the good work that people want us to do. So I look forward to your questions today. Thank you so much. We're so excited about this race and what we have to give to the people. Thank you.
Tony, you're muted.
Thank you. We will now go to the question and answer session. You will have up to 4 minutes to address each question. Taxes affect every business and individual. What are your views on federal tax policy?
You know, I want to be really clear. I am a fiscal conservative, and I have always supported doing our very best to keep taxes low in Kansas, particularly on small business. And, you know, I know that between our local taxes, our state taxes, our federal taxes, hardworking small business owners are really paying the price and too much of it. And what I want to do in Washington is support plans that will ensure that we keep the taxes reasonable, low, as much as possible, while still providing good government. And we want to give opportunity for these business owners to invest in their businesses and in their communities. So, you know, I am aware that our corporate tax system, it's been broken for a really long time. Even before the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act that we have. And what we need taxes that are low and fair to support businesses and that don't favor one industry over another. And we also very much need to close loopholes. We know, I mean, for instance, there's a loophole that has people encouraged to take their businesses overseas. They get paid better. They don't have to pay taxes when they do that. We can't have that. We need to make a tax code that is fair to all parties. And I look forward to voting for Kansas businesses to make that happen, just like I've done in the past in Kansas.
Thank you, Doctor. The federal government has been spending at a faster rate than the revenues coming in. Deficit spending and debt have significant impact on our economy. How will you balance these practices with future needs?
Wasn't it disappointing to watch members of our federal delegation vote for a tax change that increased our deficit by over $1 trillion? You know, my understanding is that people ran 4 years ago saying we need to reduce the deficit, and we had a tremendous opportunity to do so because we were in economic strong times. And who could have imagined what was to come with this pandemic? And now we find ourselves in a crisis. And not only did we increase that debt before, Now we have to. Economists are clear that in order to save our economy, we have got to invest and get money back to our small businesses, our local governments, our state governments, unemployment benefits, etc., until we get a vaccine and can beat this virus. So I look forward in the future to take advantage of the times when we are in a good, solid economic stability and can at that time start working on getting that deficit brought down.
Everyone in this audience and every American has been affected by the pandemic. What would you propose or support, if anything, to provide further relief to Kansas businesses impacted by COVID-19 to encourage recovery and economic growth?
What an important question, and what a difficult time we've had right now. And I'm going to start, to be clear, it's not just, yes, we're going to get to that, but we have got to do things. We have got to protect ourselves and our economy by following public health guidelines. And that means wearing masks, socially distancing, and following our local people on the ground, what they recommend to help reduce the spread of this virus. We don't know when we're going to get a vaccine in place. And until that comes, we have got to help and support one another and keep our economy open by following that advice. And really, it has been tragic to watch a fellow physician going around the state, not wearing a mask, shaking hands, not following those guidelines. We can do better. So as we're working on that, we need Congress to come together, stop this partisan fighting, and get a relief package in place. We've had others, we know, but we need more. People need unemployment benefits. We've got to get money to them. We need more Paycheck Protection Program loans so that our small businesses can stay in place. We need to get money to our schools so that our teachers can have the appropriate personal protective equipment, as well as broadband that they need for all these individual students that may or may not be able to be in the classroom every day. We need, for our small businesses, the opportunity to keep paying their employees. And instead of fighting about it, we need to come to the table. And I want to be clear, we don't know exactly that amount of money. And I'm a person that's always willing to come to the table and negotiate. Because whatever it is that we need to agree on and get to the people, we've got to get that done now, not wait until I get elected and get to Washington in January.
The next question is another COVID-19 question. Would you support business liability provisions that would help protect businesses from unwarranted lawsuits related to COVID-19?
You know, I want to be clear on this. I think and have always voted as a state legislator for as low of regulation as we can have. But to be clear, we need people to be safe in their work environments. And I absolutely support safety. So I'm going to take as an example, the very final bill we voted on in our state legislature was, to me, not an appropriate bill because it took away the ability for anyone to be called negligent during COVID. And the point is, negligence is negligence. We need to have a better idea that people can be held accountable as appropriate, but we don't want frivolous lawsuits coming up when businesses, et cetera, are doing the right thing. So there's a balance there. And I grew up in my home, and then as a physician, I've always known we want people safe, but we want as much opportunity for people to have their businesses open and have as just appropriate regulation that they understand and want in place to get what is best for our entire community. Thank you.
You and your opponent are both physicians, have an eye on the healthcare system. What are your views on the federal government's role in the healthcare system, including your views on the Affordable Care Act?
Well, I want to be very clear. Both my opponent and I have MD after our name, but that's about as much commonality as we have when it comes to healthcare and what people need. Sadly, he has voted against protections for pre-existing conditions by ending the Affordable Care Act, trying to multiple times, even during a pandemic, and has stood firmly against expanding Medicaid when 80% of people in the state want that to happen. So what do I support? I support keeping what is working of our Affordable Care Act in place. Many good things have come for that, particularly protecting pre-existing conditions, among others, like keeping our kids on until they're 26 years old on parents' insurance, etc. Then we need to get everyone expanding Medicaid, so all people are in the system. As more get insured, our insurance rates go down for everyone. And then we need to find a opportunity to make a public option buy-in based most likely off of a Medicare-like system. But we still, even with the ACA and the exchange, we don't have affordable options still. So coupled with that, we need to do some very simple things to bring healthcare costs down. Perfect example is being able to negotiate with our pharmaceutical companies through Medicare for drug prices. Now, I want to be honest, my opponent voted no on that very simple thing. Donald Trump himself said we should buy our drugs from Canada. Their prices are lower. And why are they lower? Because they negotiate with pharmaceutical companies. We need to be able to do that through Medicare. There's a lot of misinformation. Gosh, how much misinformation can come from one candidate is beyond me. But from my opponent, and I want to be clear, I don't support Medicare for all. I believe in competition. We should keep our current option to buy private insurance in place because it works for many people. And you know, by putting all these different mechanisms in place and keeping the competition and doing things to actually lower the cost, we can reform healthcare in this country so people can have that affordable, accessible care.
The next question is on a different topic, and that is transportation. What are your views on long-term funding solutions for transportation infrastructure?
Great question. I'm first going to go to my record. I have been a strong supporter of transportation funding in our state, voted for the tax that goes into our transportation, and have actually helped pass 2 transportation plans statewide that we desperately need and need to keep in place. And sadly, when the Brownback tax experiment was in place, what the Republican side of the RL did was borrow money from our transportation plan. And so we ended up with roads that weren't cared for, infrastructure that wasn't taken care of, very disappointing. So I'm very eager to get to the table to help not only help people at the state level maintain our transportation structure, but get to the federal level where we can enhance it. We have opportunity to do some rail support through that system that would go through Wichita down to Texas. I think that's a great opportunity. Sadly, because of COVID, there are going to be a number of people who are without a job to ever return to. And I see an opportunity through that. We've got to get money to the people, and we've got to help them get jobs. And we should be putting that emphasis on our infrastructure, building it back up, helping our roads and bridges and highways and all these systems getting back into shape like they need to be, as well as even enhancing opportunities to make things more green. And coupled with that, our transportation system is going to be dependent on broadband access. So I think that is another part that has to be supported. Federally, we don't have enough money at the state level, and we need to be building on all of that infrastructure and have an opportunity through some kind of worker program to train people and get them into those jobs. Transportation is essential to Kansas farmers and ranchers and all of our manufacturers to get their goods out to people, and we have to make sure that that can happen.
Thank you, Doctor. International trade has always been important to Kansas farms and businesses. What are your views on international trade and tariffs?
Huge, important question. And just so you know, our farmers and ranchers, they've had so many struggles recently. They've had low commodity prices, they've had droughts and floods and very damaging trade policies that have been then accompanied by this global pandemic. And, what I'm seeing is both Democrats and Republicans seem to be less committed to free trade, that we need open markets for our farmers. And really now more than ever, Kansas farmers need someone like me who will be a voice of reason and will truly continue to advocate for trade deals that actually work for them and that will prevent these very high escalating tariffs that unfortunately really choke their income. They want to sell, they don't want aid. And I'm also really deeply concerned about this bipartisan consensus that we've had, normally on expanded global trade. And for me, no matter who our president is, and whatever their party is, we have got to enhance and expand our trade agreements into other parts of the world, especially Asia. And that's a great market. And yeah, I understand China is a bad actor and they should be held accountable, but not on the backs and shoulders of our farmers. The farmers that I've talked to, and I've been all over the state, it's really been fun to do. They appreciate that this administration has provided aid to support them, but as I said earlier, they want to trade. Congress really needs to take steps that really will clarify the president's authorization of implementing trade tariffs. I think that's been a problem, and we need to evaluate that. And really, our president shouldn't be able to just unilaterally endanger our agricultural economy, just kind of on a whim or any flimsy legal basis. And really, our president should strictly implement tariffs for national security purpose and do it with the, that opportunity that was the Congress's original intent. But again, I really look forward to enhancing opportunities for our farmers, our ranchers, trade in this state and in this country. Great opportunities lie ahead.
Thank you. The next question moves on to immigration. And what are your views on national immigration policy? Do you support reforms to assist with workforce shortages?
This is a classic example of where Washington is broken on immigration reform. And it isn't one administration now, it's been for years. I mean, since the 70s, we've needed reform. And I have been disappointed in my opponent that he hasn't done anything to try to bring people together in a bipartisan way on this huge issue of reform. Absolutely support it. We have so many, the United States has been a beacon of hope for the people of the world, for opportunity. My own family, my husband's family came to Kansas for that opportunity. Interestingly, 1 in 10 Kansas workers is an immigrant. We are dependent upon that labor force. And we need not only to maintain it, but grow it. When I've been around the state, let's take Spirit, for example. When I visited with Spirit, they said one of the greatest things standing in their way was the opportunity to hire the workers and the engineers that they need because of immigration challenges and the inability to bring people in that they need. That needs to change. When I talk to our meat packing industries here in Kansas, they've said we cannot get the workers we need, again, because we haven't reformed immigration policy. You know, for those who are here undocumented, they have to have a path to citizenship. And if they're following our rules and doing the right thing, paying their taxes, let's get them a path to citizenship. And let's say they haven't paid all their taxes. Well, let's have them pay it back. Or if we need to have a fine, let's make that happen. But we've got to come together because we need these people. Another instance is DACA. Those kids are here under no choice of their own. We've educated them to the best of our ability, and we want them to reach their full potential. They are citizens all but for a piece of paper. So all these things need to be helped and reformed. At the same time, of course, we can have safe borders, and we need and expect safe borders. That is appropriate. We don't just need to build a wall, though. What we need to do is invest in the tools that people need that are guarding our borders so that they can do it in a 21st century manner and help protect bad people and bad drugs, et cetera, from coming into this country. So I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's get this done.
Next, we move on to the environment. What are your views on national environmental policy?
Well, let's be clear. I believe and follow science. Unlike many times of my opponent who isn't quite sure about this issue, not sure, I'm very sure. We have a problem with our climate, and we as human beings are contributing to it and need to move forward. The first thing I would like to see us do is get back into the Paris Climate Accord agreement. We need to do that because we have to participate on a worldwide level and again go back to being leaders on this very issue. I have a very strong and proud record of doing things in our own state to improve our or lower our carbon load. For instance, wind energy. We set a goal as a state legislator to get us to 25% net wind energy. My goodness, we moved to 40% without really working too hard on it and way past the goal. And that's really exciting that Kansas is one of the leaders. And it's not just about the climate, it's also a great economic boon to our state, gives good jobs to people while improving our climate. And I think we can continue to work on things like enhancing our wind energy. Of course, keeping turbines off of our protected Flint Hills areas, but do that. Same with solar. But ultimately, what we need to do as a country is admit and work together and acknowledge that climate change matters. It needs to be dealt with. And my opponent, again, more misrepresentation. The Green New Deal, I don't support it. I won't be supporting things that can't be funded effectively. But there are good ideas, some of them that are in there that we can look at. But bottom line, I would not be supporting the Green New Deal. And ultimately, I want our farmers and ranchers at the table as we look at climate reform. They are the best stewards of our environment because they are dependent upon it. So again, there is so much that needs to be done, isn't there? And I'm ready to get to work in a bipartisan manner to make those things happen.
Doctor, in a season of deep partisan divide, how would you seek to build unity?
The same way I have for the past 11 years. An individual has to be willing to stand up to party leadership when it needs to happen. And I have done that consistently throughout my time in the state legislature, sometimes to the great challenge of those leaders. And we've seen the results of standing up to leadership, but it must be done. And that is exactly what I will be taking to Washington. And I've also, while I've been standing up to leadership, I also am willing to work with anyone, any aisle that you want to pick, to get good things passed for the people. And that's what we have to do. We have to go into a legislative situation and say, I need to listen to you. I hope you will listen to me, and we can find common ground and build from there. If you look at my logo, you see that red and blue line? I had him design that because I wanted people to be clear that Kansas is red and it's blue. We are red and blue people. We're not purple unless we are K-Staters, which go K-State, but we're red and blue. And our job is to be building together, just like DNA, and following science and doing those things, finding that common ground and moving forward. And it takes hard work. I know that, and it takes patience. But I have done that for 11 years. I'm ready to take that straight to Washington. And, I will say to my opponent who says, oh, you'll follow X person or Y person, you know what? I am strong. And I really don't think that someone else should be saying how I'm going to behave, someone that personally can't stand up to leadership and just follows the party line. I stand up for the people and will be working to bring people together.
Dr. Bollier, we now, under our format, give you 5 minutes for a closing statement.
It's a delight to be here today talking to the people and businesses of Overland Park. Over my years, I've established really strong relationships with my local chambers, Overland Park included. And that really matters because knowing that you have a legislator to join with who is there to listen to you, not just to respond back, but to listen to understand. Listen, assess the data, work together, and then move things forward to resolve issues. That's what we need in our government. If you're like me, I am so tired of the hyperpartisanship and the fighting. I know we can do better because I know I can do better. And we need leadership in Washington who will just put the politics aside and get together working and get things done. That's what I bring to the table, and I'll be clear, I'm asking for your vote because we need to be a nation united, the United States of America. We need a Kansas that is uniting and working and building together, whether we're from Overland Park or from Quinter, Kansas, wherever we're from, we need to be able to do it together. So I look forward to serving you. Thank you so much for having me here today. And of course, God bless all of you.
Thank you, Doctor, for joining us today, and this will conclude our program. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today and remind you that today's forum has been recorded and will be posted on the Policy Council's website, www.votejoco.com. You will also find other forums and interviews of candidates for state and local races, national races on that website, and I'd encourage everyone to go there. Advanced voting by mail has already begun. Advanced voting in person begins on Monday, October 19. Election day is November 3. Thank you again for joining us. Have a great day.
Good to see you all.
Thank you very much.
You too. Be well. Stay safe.